I'm Lucy, work as a creative director at an advertising agency. My husband Ethan is a communications strategist, and my best friend Chloe is a rising influencer. When I was having trouble conceiving, Ethan came up with this crazy but sensible idea. Let Chloe carry his child, and we'd all be image managed on social media as a beautiful story of sacrifice. I kept a diary pretending to be devastated, but actually creating a documentary that would expose it all. If you love real-life stories, chilling revenge, and dark family secrets, hit that subscribe button. Now you're about to step into a world where the truth is far more terrifying than fiction. I used to believe every story had a center, a main character whose arc shaped the entire narrative. For years I thought that character was me. I was wrong. My name is Lucy Bradford. And for most of my late 20s, I lived inside a story someone else directed. Someone who understood lighting, timing, audience perception, and emotional impact better than he understood love. That someone was my husband. Ethan Hale, the man social media once praised as the perfect partner. The man every woman wishes she had and the gentlest soul in Los Angeles. The truth was far less poetic, but it took me years to see it. I'm 29. A creative director at Luma Agency, a mid-size advertising firm in downtown Los Angeles. I create stories for brands' narratives packed into 30-second commercials, emotional arcs designed to spark shares and comments, human moments that feel authentic even when they're curated to the last pixel. You'd think someone like me would be immune to manufactured emotion, but when love is the product, and the man selling it looks at you like you're his entire world, even a seasoned creative like me can fall for the illusion. Ethan wasn't always the villain. When we met, he was an ambitious strategy lead, known for his brilliant pitches. He could turn anything, a deodorant stick, a dog food bag, a local coffee shop, into something meaningful, inspirational, and wildly shareable. He understood people, or at least how to package them, and he packaged me beautifully. "Lucy, you make everything look effortless," he used to say, brushing a loose strand of hair behind my ear while the sun set behind the office windows. "You make me better." At the time I believed him. I believed everything. Our relationship grew quickly, blossoming under fluorescent lights and weekend photo shoots for the agency's social pages. When we married, the office erupted with cheers. Friends posted reels of our wedding, calling us the couple who proves real love exists. Even strangers followed our joint Instagram account, where Ethan posted curated snapshots of our life. My head on his shoulder during a flight to Maui, our intertwined hands over brunch, candid shots of me laughing in the golden hour. It wasn't until 2 years later, when our attempts to have a child kept failing, that the cracks in our perfect narrative began to show. The first few months were soft attempts, ovulation tests, fertility apps, massages, meant to relax the stress. Then came the doctor visits. Then came the silent dinners. Then came Ethan's growing frustration. Not loud, not violent, just sharp, like he was cutting the air in half every time he exhaled. "We just need to approach this differently," he'd say, voice tight but patient. "People have babies all the time. This shouldn't be so complicated." But it was. And every negative pregnancy test felt like another reason for him to reevaluate the story he wanted our life to tell. By the time we hit the 3-year mark of marriage, the script of our relationship had completely shifted. Instead of being partners, we were characters performing roles for an audience we couldn't see. Ethan insisted we keep posting cheerful updates, smiling vacation photos, cheesy reels of us cooking dinner. "People look up to us," he said. "They need to believe in something." Sometimes I wondered whether he was talking about people or just himself. The day everything changed began like a normal Saturday, sunlight spilling through our bedroom curtains, the faint smell of coffee from the kitchen. Ethan scrolling through his phone before even saying good morning. He was checking analytics, likes, shares, comments on the vlog he'd posted the night before. I slipped out of bed and went to the bathroom, standing in front of the mirror. My reflection looked tired, haunted by too many fertility appointments and too many evenings pretending everything was fine for the camera. When I returned to the bedroom, Ethan was sitting up, phone in hand, excitement glinting in his eyes. That glint always made me uneasy. It meant he had an idea. Lucy, he said, patting the bed beside him. Come sit. My stomach tightened. I sat. He turned his phone toward me. On the screen was Chloe Rivera, my best friend from college, now a lifestyle influencer, with a growing audience known for her bright smile and whimsical aesthetic. She had just posted a vlog about women supporting women. Ethan paused the video halfway, then turned to me with a look so calculated, it made my skin buzz. Hear me out, he said. What if I told you I found a way for us to finally complete our family? The way he emphasized complete made me flinch. What do you mean, I asked, though? A small part of me already knew where this was going. Ethan took a deep breath, the kind he used in client pitches. I've been thinking about something unconventional, he began. Something modern. Something inspiring. Something that could help us and help others who are struggling like we are. He paused for dramatic effect, always the strategist. What if he continued slowly? We asked Chloe to help us have a baby. The words landed like a slap. I stared at him, my voice barely audible. Help. How? You know how he said gently as if speaking to a child? She could carry our baby, and we could share the journey with the world. Think about the impact, the awareness, the hope we could give people. I didn't respond. My brain was buzzing so loud I could barely hear the rest of what he said. Something about Chloe being healthy, photogenic, trustworthy, a powerful addition to the narrative. Narrative story impact audience. He didn't want a family, he wanted content. Ethan, I whispered, you want my best friend to get pregnant with your child? He reached for my hand, squeezing it, as if the gesture made the idea less horrifying. Lucy, it wouldn't just be my child. It would be our child, emotionally, spiritually, symbolically, and we'd handle everything professionally. Contracts, boundaries, medical supervision. Chloe loves us. She'd do it. My chest tightened so much I could barely breathe. She doesn't even know you're thinking about this, I said. His expression shifted, too fast, too rehearsed. Actually, we talked last week. Casually, she said she's open to helping us however she can. My stomach dropped. You talked to her before talking to me, Lucy. He sighed like I was being unreasonable. I needed to see if it was even possible before overwhelming you with hope. Hope. The only thing overwhelming me was betrayal. I pulled my hand away slowly, and if I say no. He looked at me with something I'd never seen before, an almost irritated pity. Lucy, you know how long we've been trying. You know how much people expect from us, from our platform, from our story. This could be big, not just for us, for our careers, for the women who follow us, for families everywhere, for our careers, for our platform. There it was, the truth. Do you even want a real child? I whispered. Or do you just want a storyline? He stiffened. That's unfair. Is it? We stared at each other, the space between us, cracking open like a fault line. The man I once adored now looked like a stranger wearing Ethan's face. Finally, he stood, his tone shifting to the one he used with interns who didn't get his instructions. Look, just think about it. Chloe's coming over tonight. We can talk as a group. A group like a campaign meeting. He left the room to make breakfast, or maybe to rehearse the pitch. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor, hands trembling. My life had become a screenplay, and I was no longer the protagonist. I was the obstacle, the complication, the infertile wife who threatened the story's success. That was the moment something inside me snapped, not loudly, but quietly, like a thread pulled from the edge of a tapestry, unraveling everything in silence. I stood, walked to the mirror, and looked at myself again. Same face, same body, but something fundamental had shifted. I picked up my phone, opened the camera, and pressed record. Hi, I said softly, voice trembling. This is just for me. A private entry. I don't know where this is going yet, but something feels wrong, really wrong. I paused, swallowing hard. If Ethan wants to turn my life into a story, then I need to tell one of my own. I ended the recording and placed the phone down carefully, as if it were a fragile piece of evidence. Later that night, when Chloe walked into our apartment with her sunshine smile and perfectly curated outfit, I hugged her with arms that felt heavy. I could feel Ethan watching us, evaluating angles, imagining thumbnails. And all I could think was, if they're going to cast me as the supporting character in my own life, Then I'll rewrite the script from the shadows. That was the night I decided to stop trusting appearances, stop trusting perfect stories, and stop trusting the man who built our marriage like a reality series. That was the night I began filming everything, not for the audience Ethan cared about, but for the reckoning I knew was coming. And this time, I would be the one behind the camera. The night Chloe came over, the apartment felt like a stage set. Every light was dimmed to a flattering glow. Ethan always cared about the ambiance, even when we were alone. It was as if he couldn't stand to see the world unfiltered. I guess that included me. Chloe stepped inside with her soft pink cardigan, glowing skin, perfect hair, her whole presence curated like an aesthetic mood board. She hugged me with a familiar sweetness, the kind of warmth only a best friend can offer. But for the first time in our decade-long friendship, the warmth didn't reach me. I felt a chill instead, like something inside me had stepped backward. "Lucy, you look beautiful as always," she said, squeezing my arms. "Thanks," I replied, forcing a smile. "You too." Ethan came over, smiling that television-ready smile of his. "I'll grab some wine. Make yourselves comfortable." He disappeared into the kitchen and I could hear him humming. Cheerful, rehearsed, almost triumphant. It made my neck stiffen. Chloe sat on the couch next to me, crossing her legs in that effortless way influencers do. The way that looks candid even though it's anything but. "So," she said softly, her voice dripping with anticipation and nervousness. "Ethan mentioned he talked to you." My stomach tightened. "He did," I answered. "And he mentioned he talked to you first." She flushed, embarrassed. "Lucy, I swear I didn't want to say anything until he brought it up with you. I didn't want you to feel blindsided." "Then maybe you shouldn't have had that conversation at all," I said quietly. Her lips parted in a small breath like I had slapped her with words. "Lucy, I was only trying to help." Before I could respond, Ethan returned with the wine, placing 3 glasses on the coffee table. "Okay," he said, settling into the armchair across from us. "Let's talk." The way he said it, crisp, organized, confident, made this feel like a strategy meeting, not a moment that might destroy my marriage. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I know the idea seems surprising at first," he began. "But we've been struggling for years, Lucy. Every option we tried hasn't worked, and we're not getting younger." Chloe nodded softly. "I want to help," she added. "You two are my favorite people." My throat closed. Favorite people. How easy it must be to say that when you're not the one being replaced. I looked from her to Ethan, studying their expressions, noticing something subtle, a familiarity in their eye contact, an ease that made my skin prickle. Had they rehearsed this together? Ethan continued. "We've always shared our journey with our audience, the ups and downs. Imagine how powerful it would be to talk openly about infertility, surrogacy, friendship. It could help so many couples realize they aren't alone." There it was again, his obsession with impact, with perception. "Ethan," I said calmly, "are you even hearing yourself? This isn't a brand opportunity. This is my body, my marriage, my pain." He exhaled, frustrated. "I know, sweetheart, but we need a solution. Chloe is willing. And this could be beautiful." Chloe placed her hand gently on mine. "Lucy, I promise I would never overstep. This would be your baby too. I wouldn't be the mother, just the carrier." I knew she meant well, or at least she believed she did. But nothing about this felt clean or noble or generous. It felt like betrayal wrapped in kindness. "Can I ask you something?" I said, turning to her. "When Ethan asked you, what exactly did he say?" She blinked. "He said you were struggling, that you were both heartbroken, that he didn't want to push you toward invasive treatments anymore. And that maybe I could help complete your family." Complete your family. The same phrase he used with me. Rehearsed. "And you agreed just like that?" I asked. "I didn't agree," she said quickly. "I said I was open to a conversation. That's all, Lucy. I wouldn't do anything without you feeling okay about it." But okay wasn't even in the same galaxy as what I was feeling. Ethan set down his wine glass and clasped his hands the way he did when pitching a big idea. "Listen," he said. "Let's stop thinking of this as something emotional. Think of it as a plan. A partnership." My voice cracked. You are talking about having a child with my best friend? I'm talking about having a family, he countered. I stared at him and something inside me hardened like cooling metal. His eyes softened slightly when he saw my expression. Lucy, he said gently, I love you. I want this with you. I'm not trying to replace you, but maybe he didn't see it, but he was. So what happens after she gives birth? I asked coldly. We just pretend nothing happened. Pretend my best friend didn't carry your child. Chloe flinched. Ethan sighed. We'll manage it. Plenty of families do this. This isn't a family, I snapped. This is a storyline. The silence stretched for a painful moment. Ethan finally leaned back, exhaling. Okay, let's take a breath. But I'd already taken mine, deep and steady like the last breath you take before you dive underwater. If you need time, Chloe said softly. We understand. I don't want you to make a decision tonight. You're right, I whispered. I do need time. Good, Ethan said, relieved. We can reconvene later, but I need time alone. Ethan blinked. Chloe is staying for dinner. She can stay, I said, but I'm going for a walk. He opened his mouth to protest, but I raised my hand slightly, surprising myself. I need air, Ethan. Please. He closed his mouth, and Chloe gave me a sympathetic nod. I grabbed my phone, my keys, and my thin jacket, then walked out of the apartment. The door clicked behind me, and the hallway felt like a sanctuary. A quiet place, untouched by curated perfection. I walked without direction down the street past small cafes and dim storefronts Los Angeles. At night always had a strange duality. Glittering lights and empty sidewalks. Hope and loneliness intertwined. My feet carried me to a small park a few blocks from our building. I sat on a bench under a flickering street lamp and took out my phone. The night air was cool, soothing my burning cheeks. I opened the camera again. Entry 2, I whispered, hitting record. My voice trembled, but I didn't stop. I don't know what Ethan wants from me anymore. I don't even know if it's me he wants. He talks about us like we're a brand, like our lives are one long marketing campaign. I swallowed. And Chloe, I love her. I always have, but tonight it felt like she wasn't my friend. It felt like she was his partner, or maybe she wants to be. A tear slipped down my cheek. I wiped it quickly, angry at myself. I'm lost and scared. And I feel stupid for being surprised. Ethan has always been about the story, but tonight I realized I'm not the author. I'm just a character. My voice cracked, but I'm changing that. I ended the recording and took a long breath. When I finally returned home, the atmosphere in the apartment had softened. The lights were lower, music was playing. Chloe and Ethan were in the kitchen talking in hushed tones. They smiled when they saw me, but I felt the distance between us like a wall of glass. You okay? Ethan asked. I will be, I replied. Chloe hugged me again before leaving. Take your time, she said. No pressure. I want what's best for you. When the door closed behind her, Ethan turned to me, so he asked cautiously, How are you feeling? I looked him straight in the eyes. I'm thinking, I said, and I was just not about what he thought. That night, after he fell asleep with his laptop still open beside him, I quietly took it, plugged in my hard drive, and copied everything. Emails, documents, drafts, analytics, the entire curated history of our married life. I wasn't sure why yet, but a small voice inside whispered, You'll need this. Then I turned off the light and lay beside Ethan, staring into the darkness. The play had begun, and I was done being the supporting actress. Every marriage has its secret language, glances that replace words, gestures that speak louder than sentences, silences that carry more meaning than arguments. The problem was, by the time I reached my 30s, Ethan and I no longer shared a language. We shared a brand. And brands don't ask for consent. They ask for consistency. The morning after Chloe visited, I woke up with the sun cutting across our bedroom in bright slants. Ethan was already gone, his side of the bed neatly made, like he hadn't slept there at all. That was normal. He liked to wake up early to optimize his morning productivity spike, as he called it. I walked into the kitchen to find him on his laptop, a protein shake beside him typing furiously. When he noticed me, he flashed a quick smile, too quick to press release perfect. Morning. Loose coffee's brewing. How are you feeling today? I hated that question. It sounded like he was surveying a target demographic. I'm fine, I said, thinking. He nodded approvingly. Good. It's a big decision, but don't stress too much. Okay. This could be the solution we've been waiting for. The solution he had been waiting for. He kissed my cheek lightly before returning to his emails. His lips felt like a rubber stamp, a gesture done out of obligation, not affection. I sat at the counter, sipping my coffee slowly, observing him. Not the Ethan I married, but the Ethan standing in front of me now, efficient, polished, deeply strategic, a man who would choose a storyline over a heartbeat. The laptop I'd copied files from last night sat open, its screen full of analytics charts. I glanced at it again, my stomach tightening. Last night felt like crossing a line, but a necessary one. I'm meeting with Brian at the agency later, Ethan said. We're discussing options for new content formats. I raised an eyebrow, content about what? Oh, general stuff, he said casually. Lifestyle shifts, family planning, infertility journeys. I froze. So you're already planning to make content about this, before I've even decided? No, he said quickly. Not about this specifically, just potential angles if we go forward with it. He took a sip of his shake. It's important to think ahead. It was important for him to stay ahead. I realized then that Ethan didn't want me to have time. He wanted control over the timing, control over the narrative, control over me. But what he didn't know was that I had already begun building a narrative of my own. 2 days later, I made my first move. I took an extended lunch break and walked 2 blocks from my office to a discreet glass-walled building with a small gold plaque on the door, Dr. Rebecca Miller, clinical psychologist. I had called the day before asking if she had any cancellations or openings. Her receptionist said a spot had opened that afternoon. When I stepped inside her office, the atmosphere was neutral and warm, soft rugs, muted earth tones, shelves filled with books about trauma, identity, power dynamics. She smiled gently, Lucy. Yes, I said, sinking into the armchair across from hers. How can I help you today? That was when I felt everything inside me tremble. No cameras, no curated expressions, no pressure to smile, just space. So I told her, not everything, not yet, but enough. I told her about the years of infertility, the pressure, the emotional distance, Ethan's obsession with public image, his proposal involving Chloe, the way my life felt like a marketing campaign instead of a marriage. Dr. Miller listened without interrupting, her face open but unreadable. When I finished, my throat felt raw. She waited a moment before speaking. Lucy, what Ethan is doing is manipulative, constructing a narrative without your consent, pressuring you, using emotional leverage. These are forms of psychological control. Hearing it from someone else, from a professional, sent a jolt through me. It's not physical, I said softly, almost defensively. Control doesn't have to be physical to be harmful, she replied gently. But the question is, what do you want independent of Ethan? I opened my mouth, and nothing came out. I didn't know. I hadn't thought about what I wanted in so long that the question felt foreign. Everything had become about Ethan's desires, Ethan's goals, Ethan's career, Ethan's content. She continued. You mentioned recording videos. Tell me more about that. I hesitated. Then slowly I explained how I'd started filming private entries, documents of what was happening behind the scenes. That's very powerful, she said. You're reclaiming your voice, your truth. It's a form of agency. Agency, a word Ethan hated. She leaned forward slightly. Lucy, I want you to consider the possibility that you're not powerless here. In fact, you might have more control than you realize. A spark flickered inside my chest. For the first time in a long time, I felt something like clarity. After the session, I stepped outside into the California sunlight, blinking as if emerging from a cave. I took out my phone and recorded a short entry right there on the sidewalk. Entry 3. I whispered, I think I finally see what's happening. Ethan isn't building a family. He's building a narrative, and I'm not in it. Not really, but I'm not done. Not by a long shot. That evening, Chloe invited me to her apartment. The message was bright and bubbly. Luce, can we talk? Just us? I want to make sure you're okay. I hesitated before replying, then I went. Her place was exactly what Instagram expected it to be. White furniture, pastel decor, dozens of plants framed inspirational quotes. The kind of space that photographed well. She made us tea and sat cross-legged on the couch. Lucy, I'm worried about you, she said sincerely. You've been distant. I wonder why I replied, an edge creeping into my voice. She winced. I know, I'm sorry. I should have waited for Ethan to talk to you first. I honestly thought I was helping. Helping him, I corrected. No, She shook her head. Helping both of you. Her eyes were soft, pleading, but something in them made my stomach sink. A flicker of excitement, maybe, or importance, like being chosen for something grand. I realized then that Chloe had her own script, too. She wasn't innocent. She was flattered. She was flattered to be needed, to be pivotal, to be central, to be important in Ethan's story. I decided to test her. Chloe, I said calmly, tell me honestly, if you agreed to this, would you post about it? She looked down for a moment, then nodded. Eventually, she admitted, I mean, it could help people, inspire them, or grow your audience, I said. She looked hurt, Lucy. That's not fair. Fair, nothing about this situation was fair. I leaned back, studying her face carefully. Ethan talked to you more than once, didn't he? She froze. For a split second, just one, I saw guilt. Then it was gone. He checked in with me, she finally said, to see how I felt about helping. He cares about you, Lucy. He wants this to work. I felt a cold wave slide down my spine. Of course he had talked to her more than once. Of course they had been discussing this without me. My voice dropped. And did he tell you he wants to document the process online? Her eyes flickered, and that was my answer. I stood feeling my heartbeat hammering in my chest. Chloe, you're my best friend. But this is too far. She stood too, reaching for my arm. Lucy, wait. I stepped back. I need space, I said, please. I left her apartment before she could say another word. When I reached my car, I sat inside, hands gripping the steering wheel, breathing hard. The betrayal wasn't a knife, it was a slow burn, a wildfire creeping from the edges inward. I pulled out my phone. Entry 4. I whispered. Chloe and Ethan have been talking behind my back. Planning, preparing, maybe dreaming. This isn't just a suggestion anymore. It's a script they've been writing together. But they forgot one thing. They forgot. I can write too. That night, after Ethan fell asleep, I opened my laptop. I created a new folder and titled it simply, Truth. Inside it, I saved every video diary entry, every copied email, every document, every analytic report, every screenshot. Then I created a second folder. This one I named Evidence. Because this wasn't just a story anymore. This was preparation. And in the dark, with the soft hum of the city outside our window, I realized something. Ethan thought he was producing a documentary about our lives. But the real documentary, the one that would expose him, was already being filmed. By me. The weeks that followed felt like living inside a split reality. One polished for the world, and one rotting beneath the surface. On the outside, Ethan and I maintained the veneer of a perfect couple. We filmed cheerful weekend vlogs, collaborated on branded content, and attended influencer events where people praised us for being so inspiring together. Ethan thrived in those spaces. Attention was his oxygen. And I played along because I needed time to observe, to record, to prepare. Inside, though, the cracks deepened. Ethan's patience thinned whenever I hesitated to discuss the plan. Chloe texted me almost daily, asking if I'd reconsidered offering to meet up for coffee, brunch, meditation, anything that sounded soft and supportive. I ignored most of them. I wasn't ready to confront her again. One night, while editing a video for Ethan's YouTube channel, I noticed something unsettling. In the clips we had recorded earlier that day, footage of us making homemade pasta, Ethan kept glancing toward his phone between takes. Not casual glances, intentional ones. The kind people take when they're checking on something or someone. Out of curiosity, I zoomed into one frame. The screen was blurry, but I recognized the layout of the messaging app, a familiar pink profile photo. Chloe. My chest tightened. Not because they were texting people text their friends all the time, but because of how often they were texting and how easily Ethan hid it from me. I took a slow breath and minimized the frame. Not yet. Not time to confront it. I needed more. A few days later, Ethan announced casually, like it was a weather update, that Chloe had agreed to join us for a creative session about the infertility content he wanted to make. We need her perspective as someone who'd be helping us, he said while buttering his toast. It's good to get ahead of things. I stared at him. Ahead of what? He shrugged. Whatever direction we take. I folded my arms. Ethan, I haven't agreed to anything. He paused, annoyed. Lucy, you're stalling. I'm thinking. Well, think faster. The words hit me like ice water. I put down my coffee cup, staring at him. And why is Chloe involved in this at all? He laughed lightly. Patronizing, because she might be carrying our baby. Isn't that obvious? The casual cruelty of it made my hands tremble. But outwardly I stayed calm. "We'll see," I said, standing up. And I left the room before the fury building in my chest could spill out. Later that afternoon, I met with Dr. Miller again. She noticed my shaking hands before I even sat down. "Rough week?" she asked gently. I nodded. "I feel like Ethan's pushing harder. He's acting like the decision's already made, and he's involving Chloe in everything. And how does that make you feel? How do you think?" My voice cracked. "I'm being erased." She nodded slowly. "Lucy, this is emotional coercion. You're not being given real choice. He's surrounding you with pressure. Public expectations. Your friend's involvement. A pre-written narrative." I swallowed hard. "Have you confronted him?" she asked. "No," I whispered. "Not yet. I want to be sure. I want proof." She studied me for a moment. "Proof of what?" I hesitated. The truth had been sitting in my chest like a stone. That he and Chloe have been talking about this more than they're admitting. That he's planning to go forward whether I agree or not. She leaned forward. "Lucy, what will you do if that's true?" I stared at my hands. "I don't know," I whispered, "but I'm preparing." She nodded with approval. "Not for revenge, but for reclaiming my agency." "Whatever you choose," she said. "Make sure it's for you, not for Ethan's approval. You deserve a life that isn't scripted by someone else." As I walked out of her office, the air felt clearer, my purpose sharper. 2 nights later, Ethan hosted what he called a content brainstorming dinner. I called it something else. A trap. He insisted we all dress casually but camera ready. Chloe arrived wearing a soft lavender sweater that made her glow on camera. Ethan looked like he stepped out of a lifestyle magazine. White tea-light jeans, tousled hair. I stood between them, feeling invisible. Dinner was light, pasta wine, the background hum of Ethan's camera set on a tripod. He framed everything like we were shooting a documentary, not eating a meal. So Ethan said brightly as he sat down, "I think the first series should focus on infertility, our journey so far. It will set up the rest beautifully." "Beautifully," I muttered. He ignored the tone. Chloe jumped in. "I think sharing the emotional part would be amazing. People want authenticity." Authenticity. Their version of authenticity made me want to scream. I glared at Ethan. "What exactly do you plan to tell people? That my body failed? That I'm defective?" Chloe gasped softly. "Lucy, no." But Ethan didn't deny it. He didn't even flinch. He leaned forward using his soothing, persuasive pitch voice. "It's not about failure, Lucy. It's about resilience. About fighting for a dream. People love that." A chill ran down my spine. He wasn't describing a family. He was describing content. And when I said quietly, "Were you planning to mention Chloe might be the one carrying our child?" He frowned. "Not until we have everything settled. We need the arc to unfold naturally." Naturally, like a script. I swallowed hard. "And have you already talked to Chloe about details?" Both of them froze for a split second, almost imperceptible, but I saw it. Then Chloe spoke softly. "Ethan told me some things, just so I could think everything through." I looked at Ethan. "Without me," he sighed. "Lucy, you're emotional. I didn't want to pressure you." "You didn't want to pressure me," I repeated, stunned. "But you pressured her." He rolled his eyes, frustration bubbling. "Oh my God. Lucy, stop acting like I'm the villain here. We're trying to find a solution." I felt the tears burn behind my eyes, hot, humiliating, but I blinked them away. "This solution," I said, voice cracking, "seems to involve everyone's feelings but mine." Chloe looked down. For once her influencer glow dimmed. "Lucy," she whispered. "I'm sorry, I never wanted to hurt you." I stood slowly from the table. "I believe you," I said softly. "But that doesn't change what's happening." Ethan pushed back his chair sharply. "Sit down. We need to finish this conversation." Something inside me snapped quietly but irrevocably. "No," I said, "you need to finish your script. I need to breathe." I walked to the balcony, cold air hitting my face. Behind me, Ethan muttered something about me being dramatic, about how I shut down whenever things get hard. I leaned against the railing, taking deep breaths, trying to steady my shaking hands. I took out my phone. Entry 7. I whispered, "He's not even hiding it anymore. He's making decisions for me without me. And Chloe, she's right there with him. I think they both believe they're doing something noble. Maybe that's the worst part." The glass door slid open behind me. Ethan stepped outside, voice low but sharp. You're embarrassing yourself. I turned to him. I don't owe you a performance. You owe me partnership, he snapped. I've been patient. Supportive. I'm trying to fix this family. This family, I whispered, or your brand. His jaw clenched. You're impossible, he said. You always think the worst. I nodded slowly. Maybe because the worst keeps being true. He stared at me for a long, cold moment before walking inside. Chloe followed shortly, avoiding my eyes. I'll I'll go, she said quietly. When they left, the apartment felt too quiet, too clean, too staged. I went to Ethan's computer. I knew I shouldn't, but I also knew I had to. And what I found made my breath stop. A hidden folder labeled Family Vision 2025. Inside were outlines, full content arcs, brand partnership proposals, a 3-month timeline, an entire rollout plan, including a segment titled The Woman Who Carried Our Miracle Chloe's Story. I swayed where I stood. They had planned everything, every word, every post, every emotion. With or without my consent, I closed the laptop slowly, my hands trembling. Then I walked into my office, shut the door, and unlocked the folder I'd created. Truth. And for the first time, I didn't feel helpless. I felt ready, because Ethan thought he was building a legacy. But all he was building was his own downfall. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There are countless real-life betrayals, twists, and revenge stories waiting for you in the next episodes. The night I found Ethan's Family Vision 2025 folder was the night something inside me died. And something else was born. Not rage, not hatred, clarity. The kind of clarity that arrives like a clean slice through flesh and bone, sharp, undeniable, incapable of being ignored. For 3 years, Ethan had shaped our life like a screenplay, and now reading the detailed content plans for a child that hadn't even been conceived yet. A child he expected Chloe to carry. I understood something vital. He never wanted a family. He wanted a season finale. And I was the obstacle he had planned to write out in Act 3. But he had underestimated one thing. He had forgotten that I was a storyteller too. The next morning, Ethan behaved as if nothing had happened. He hummed as he made breakfast. He asked about my schedule. He kissed the top of my head before leaving for a meeting. It was unsettling. Seeing the man who plotted my erasure act like he was still a loving husband. When the door closed behind him, the apartment felt like a vacuum sealed around me, still pressurized. I went straight to my office, locked the door, and opened the folder titled Truth. Inside were hours of video entries, screenshots, emails, analytics, and the full outline of Ethan's secret plan. But I wasn't ready to expose it yet. I needed one more piece. One final shot that would tie everything together. And I knew exactly where to get it. That afternoon, I texted Chloe. Can we talk, just us, urgent? She replied within minutes. Of course, come over whenever. When I arrived at her apartment, she opened the door looking nervous. Her usual glow was dimmed, like she hadn't slept well. Lucy, she breathed. I'm really glad you reached out. I feel like we've been... Before you say anything, I said, stepping inside, I need to ask you something, and I need the truth. She swallowed. Okay. I watched her carefully. Did you know Ethan already started planning content? About you being pregnant? Her eyes widened. What? No, he didn't tell me. He has a whole timeline, I continued. Contracts, drafted, brand pitches, staged, emotional arcs. Everything. Her face drained of color. Lucy, I swear. Chloe. My voice was steady. Look me in the eyes. She hesitated, then she did. And I saw it. Not guilt, not deceit. Shock. Real shock. I thought he only had ideas. She whispered, I didn't know it was that far. He told me he wanted to wait until you said yes. Did he? I asked quietly. She nodded. He said he didn't want to pressure you, that he wanted you to feel safe. Safe. The irony stung. I sat down, exhaling shakily. Chloe, this isn't just about the baby or surrogacy. It's about Ethan controlling the entire narrative. He's planning the future without me, but using me to frame it. Chloe sank into the chair opposite me. Oh my God, she whispered. I didn't see it. I thought I was helping. I thought he was trying to repair things with you. Her voice cracked. Lucy, I'm so sorry. I believed her. I didn't forgive her, not yet. But I believed her. And that was enough. Chloe, I said, leaning forward. I need your help. She straightened. Anything. I pulled out my phone and pressed play. It was a recording from a week ago. One I hadn't shown anyone yet. Ethan in his office speaking on a call with a brand representative. Yes, she's on board, he said confidently. We're finalizing the arrangement. My wife is supportive, and my friend Chloe is excited too. Chloe's eyes filled with tears as she listened. I never said that, she whispered. I know, I said softly. He lied to them, to you, to me. When the recording ended, she looked at me with a kind of wounded anger, a new fire. What do you want me to do? She asked. I took a breath. I want you to tell the truth. The next evening, Ethan had an agency event. He insisted I attend as his supportive wife. I agreed. He thought it meant we were reconciling. In reality, it meant the audience was assembled. The event was held in a large hall with white walls, neon signs, and floating cameras. Ethan was in his element. Laughing, networking, shaking hands like a politician. When he saw me arrive, he beamed. Lucy, he said, kissing my cheek, you look beautiful. I smiled sweetly, thank you. Behind my back, my phone was recording. The night went exactly as he wanted until Chloe arrived. She looked calm, collected, determined. When Ethan saw her, he brightened. Chloe, glad you made it. We've got some people who want to meet you. But she interrupted him. I need to talk to Lucy. His smile faltered. We can chat later, right now. No, she said firmly, right now. And before he could protest, she took my hand and pulled me toward the center of the room, right where the microphones were set up for speeches. And right where Ethan couldn't stop us. Lucy, she whispered, are you ready? I nodded. Let's do this. She stepped up to the mic first. Hi, everyone, she said, her voice steady. I know this is unexpected, but I need to speak. It's important. People quieted, cameras turned. Ethan froze across the room. I want to clarify something that's been circulating privately. Chloe continued. I was approached with the idea of carrying a child for Ethan and Lucy, but I want it on record. I never agreed to anything, and I certainly never agreed to have my story planned, packaged, and sold as content. A ripple went through the crowd, and she added, I never said Lucy supported it because she didn't, because she wasn't even asked properly. Ethan's face went pale. He stepped forward quickly. Chloe, that's not necessary. I cut him off, stepping to the mic. Oh, but it is. His eyes locked on mine, wide, panicked, desperate. Lucy, he said quietly, please don't. I smiled gently. Don't what? Tell the truth. I turned to the audience. For months, Ethan has been planning a storyline about our infertility. Without my consent, he planned to use my friend as a surrogate, also without proper consent. He drafted content arcs, pitched brand deals, and even wrote emotional beats for us to follow. Gasps, murmurs, camera shutters clicking like rapid fire. I continued, voice calm, steady. He didn't want a family. He wanted a narrative. He wanted control, and he wanted to make it look inspiring. I held up my phone. I have recordings, emails, documents. Ethan stepped closer, his voice low. Lucy, stop. You're ruining everything. I looked him dead in the eyes. No, I'm saving myself. Chloe stepped beside me and put her hand on my shoulder. And for the first time in months, I felt something like real support. The fallout was immediate. Brands pulled partnerships, videos were taken down, comment sections exploded. Within 48 hours, an investigative article was published titled, The Perfect Couple Who Wasn't a Deep Dive into Manipulation, Fertility, Exploitation, and Digital Lies. Ethan tried to spin it at first, then he tried to silence me, then he tried to apologize. It didn't matter, I was done. I filed for divorce publicly, cleanly, on my own terms. And as for Chloe, she stepped back from social media for a while. She needed time to understand how easily she had slipped into Ethan's narrative. We're not what we used to be, but we're not enemies either. There's a fragile truth between us now, something raw and real, something human. Months later, I started a private channel, not for followers, not for sponsorships, not for applause, just for women who had been used, pressured, coerced, silenced, or turned into supporting characters in their own lives. Sometimes I share my recordings. Sometimes I just talk. Sometimes I simply listen. I don't post often, I don't need to, because the truth isn't content, it's liberation. And as for Ethan, I don't know what story he's telling now, I don't care. Because for the first time since my 20s, I'm not a character in someone else's script. I am the one writing, I am the one directing, and this time the story is mine.